All right, so we're diving into the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown today, and we're going to be using excerpts from the book itself
Okay.
to kind of explore the symbols and secrets and all the historical conspiracies that Brown kind of packs into this,
Right.
this thriller.
Yeah, it's more than just a thriller. It really gets you thinking about history and religion
Right.
and
Right.
the power that symbols have, to change how we see the world.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really struck me when I first read this
Mhm.
was that opening scene at the Louvre.
Right.
I mean, you have Jacques Saunière, the curator, found
Yeah.
dead,
It's such
but he leaves behind all these clues.
a great hook.
Yeah, like the Fibonacci sequence,
Yeah.
a pentacle drawn on his chest,
Right.
a message in invisible ink. I mean, it's like...
It's like he planned it all out, He knows he's dying.
Right,
And he uses those last few moments to set a stage,
right.
to pull in certain people and send them on this quest
Yeah.
to uncover the truth.
So it's not like he's just trying to help the police
Yeah.
solve his murder.
No, it's way bigger than that.
There's a bigger agenda here.
Absolutely. And that pinnacle is a big clue there. It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
why would he do that? But it's often linked to, the sacred feminine, which we're going to
Right.
talk a lot about.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was really strange when I first
Right.
read it. Like, why a pentacle?
Well, think about it. The pentacle represents balance,
Okay.
harmony between masculine and feminine energy. And, in this book, it's kind of hinting that something's off. Like
Yeah.
things are out of balance.
Okay.
Maybe there's a hidden history
Right.
we don't know about.
That's been deliberately hidden.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, we have Robert Langdon, the symbologist, who's called in
Yes.
to help with the investigation.
Right.
And he seems to be the only one who can understand all these symbols.
He's like the intellectual, the academic who can crack the code of these symbols, and
Right.
it's connecting them to historical events.
Right. It's like he's a modern-day Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly.
But instead of looking for fingerprints, he's looking for symbols.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's really important because Saunière's message isn't for the police. It's for his granddaughter, Sophie Neveu,
Yeah, so
who's also, a code breaker.
right, a cryptographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember she was a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
At first, like, we know they were estranged, but we don't know why.
And that's what keeps you reading. You're figuring it out alongside them,
Yeah.
It's like solving a puzzle together.
Absolutely. And it turns out that Sophie's involvement is not
Oh, no.
random.
No plot planned.
Her grandfather, he trained her,
Yeah.
and she has a personal connection.
It makes you wonder what could be so important
Yeah,
to risk all this for,
right,
and why involve his granddaughter in all this.
right. And then we have all these other players like Vinci Fache, the police captain,
Oh, yeah?
who's convinced that Langdon is the murderer.
Great. He represents the authority, the
Yeah.
establishment.
Yeah, he seems to represent the powers that be.
Yeah. And he's completely blind to the symbols,
Yeah.
He's just looking at surface clues.
So he's kind of like the opposite of Langdon.
Exactly. Langdon's always looking deeper.
Yeah, looking beyond the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Silas, the albino monk.
Oh, yeah, he's a strange one.
Yeah,
Driven by faith,
yeah. Driven by faith, taking orders from this mysterious teacher.
Right, who we don't even meet till much later.
Right. Silas really adds this element of danger
Yeah.
to the story. I mean,
He'll kill to keep the secret safe.
right, he's willing to kill to protect the secret,
Yeah.
which really raises the stakes.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But who is this teacher, and how are they connected to Saunière?
Yeah. It's a big question. We know there's someone powerful behind all of this.
Right.
Someone who knows the secrets of the Louvre,
Right.
and they're not afraid to use force.
Okay, so we've got a murdered curator, a symbologist on the run, a cryptic message,
It's a lot.
and a dangerous assassin.
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Well, I think we need to talk about the Priory of Sion,
The Priory of Sion.
this secret society that's at the heart of the story.
Yeah, it's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah. So what is the Priory of Sion, and how do they fit into all of this?
Well, the Priory of Sion in the book, they're a real group,
Okay.
but Dan Brown kind of plays with their history a bit.
Right.
In the Da Vinci Code, their job is to protect a secret that
Yeah.
could destroy Christianity as we know it.
I remember reading that and thinking, okay, now we're going deep into conspiracy theory territory.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild.
So what's the big secret?
They claim to protect the bloodline of Jesus Christ
Okay.
and Mary Magdalene.
Wait, Mary Magdalene, like Jesus's wife?
That's the big reveal.
Oh,
The book challenges like the whole traditional Christian story by saying that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a relationship.
Yeah.
maybe even a child.
That's definitely not what I learned in Sunday school.
Right. It's a pretty different take.
So how does this tie back to the murder at the Louvre and the Priory of Zion?
Well, the Priory believes that Saunier was one of them.
Okay.
And he was trying to expose the secret.
Through his work at the Louvre.
Maybe, yeah.
And the Louvre houses, some of the most famous artwork in the world.
Of course, like the Mona Lisa.
The Mona Lisa, painted by Leonardo da Vinci.
Right, and da Vinci, according to the book, was also a member of the Priory of Zion.
So he was in on the secret too.
The book says, that he used his art to hide clues and messages about the real Holy Grail. And this bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
So are you saying we need to look at art differently after reading this book?
I think it definitely encourages you to look deeper, to think about hidden meanings.
Yeah.
Especially with history and religion,
So what about the Mona Lisa? Are there really secret messages in that smile?
That's what Dan Brown wants us to believe. He uses this idea of
scitoma.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's like this perceptual blindness.
Okay.
He says Da Vinci used these subtle techniques in the Mona Lisa to hide details that reveal a different story. A story that challenges how we see Mary Magdalene.
Right. It's like a giant art puzzle waiting to be solved. But why haven't we noticed this before if it's in plain sight?
Well, that's the power of symbols.
Okay.
They can have so many layers, depending on what you know.
Right. So the average person might look at the Mona Lisa and just see a painting.
Yeah, just another pretty face.
But for someone like Langdon,
it's a roadmap.
It's a roadmap,
to a hidden truth.
It really makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden in plain sight.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I love about this book. It takes you on this adventure.
Yeah.
And it makes you question everything you thought you knew, about history and religion and the power of symbols.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And how they shape our world.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we left off talking about Da Vinci and hidden symbolism and the Priory of Zion. But to really understand what's going on in the Da Vinci Code, we have to talk about the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
What is it really? And why is everyone so obsessed with finding it?
Right. That's the big mystery at the heart of it all. And the book, it really plays with your expectations. At first, you think it's like this ancient relic, right? Some chalice hidden away for centuries.
Yeah.
But then Brown throws this curveball at you.
Yeah. It's like, wait, the Grail isn't an object.
Exactly.
So what is it then?
Well, this is where the book's take on history gets really interesting. Remember that whole idea about Jesus and Mary Magdalene having a child?
Oh, yeah, that was a huge reveal.
Well, the book argues that the Grail isn't about a physical object at all. It's about bloodlines, a secret lineage going all the way back to Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
So the Grail's a person, or I guess a whole line of people.
Right. And this whole concept is tied to the idea of the sangreal, which Brown says is a mistranslation of the original term sangral.
Sangral? What does that even mean?
He breaks down the etymology and reveals this connection to sangreal, or royal blood.
Okay.
So the Grail in this context represents the continuation of Jesus's bloodline, this secret that's been protected by the Priory of Zion for centuries.
I mean, it's a really fascinating theory. But is there any actual historical evidence to back up this whole thing about Jesus and Mary Magdalene?
Yeah, that's where the book kind of blurs the lines a bit between fact and fiction. It draws on some historical sources and legends.
Right.
But it also takes some creative liberties.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a novel, right? It's meant to entertain us.
Yeah.
Make us think.
Exactly. And it definitely makes you think about how history can be interpreted.
Right.
How certain stories become the dominant ones while others get, pushed aside.
It makes you wonder what other stories we might have missed out on, right? Or stories that have been rewritten to fit a certain agenda.
Right. And this idea of suppressed knowledge is central to the Da Vinci Code. You see these characters constantly searching for clues, trying to decode symbols. They're putting together the pieces of this hidden history that someone tried to erase.
It's like they're trying to solve this giant puzzle, but the pieces are scattered all over the place.
And the keystone is a huge piece of that puzzle. It's described as this intricate container, a cryptex designed by Da Vinci himself.
The cryptex, right. It's like this Renaissance-era high-tech lock. How does it even work?
Well, it's the cylinder made of all these rings with letters engraved on them. To open it, you have to arrange the rings in the right order.
Okay.
To spell out a specific word or phrase.
So it's like a combination lock but with letters instead of numbers.
Exactly. And if you get the combination wrong...
What happens? Does it explode?
Not exactly. But it's designed to protect the message inside at any cost. If you force it open or enter the wrong combination, there's this mechanism inside that breaks a vial of vinegar, and that dissolves the message.
Wow, that's so clever. And a little bit scary. Shows how important this secret was to Saunier. But, okay, back to the plot.
Right.
Langdon, Sophie, and Teabing, they're on the run from the police. They get out of Paris in Teabing's private jet, but they still can't figure out how to open the cryptex.
And that's where Teabing's expertise comes in.
Right.
He's obsessed with the Grail.
Yeah.
And he's convinced the keystone holds the key to finding it.
Teabing, the Grail scholar, right.
Yeah.
Who seems to know, like, everything about the legend. But can they trust him?
That's the question that starts to nag at you as you read.
Yeah.
Teabing's got these complex motives. He's driven by a desire for knowledge. But you get the sense that he wants to control the narrative, be the one to reveal the truth to the world.
It's like he sees himself as the hero of the story, the one who finally cracks the Grail secrets.
Exactly. But is there more to it? Does he have some ulterior motive?
Right.
That's the tension Brown builds throughout the book.
Yeah.
You never really know for sure if you can trust Teabing.
Yeah. He's smart, obviously. He knows a lot.
Yeah.
But there's something a little off about him, too.
And as the story goes on, that darkness starts to come out.
Yeah.
He manipulates Langdon and Sophie using their desperation to get what he wants.
Right, so he's not just this harmless scholar.
No.
He's become kind of a fanatic.
Right.
Willing to do whatever it takes.
He's blinded by his obsession.
To possess the Grail, yeah.
And he doesn't care who he hurts.
So we've got this complex character in Teabing.
Yeah.
A mysterious secret society.
Right.
And a quest for the truth about the Grail. Where does the action go next?
It takes us to England.
Okay.
To the Temple Church in London, a place steeped in Knights Templar history.
The Knights Templar. Another layer to this whole mystery. What's their connection to the Grail?
The Knights Templar were this medieval military order. They were supposed to protect pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land during the Crusades.
Right.
But these legends started popping up saying they discovered some big secret, something they brought back to Europe.
And that secret was the Holy Grail.
That's what a lot of people believe. And in the Da Vinci Code, the Temple Church is a crucial location in the search for the Grail.
Okay.
It's a place where the past and the present collide.
Yeah, like those old historical thrillers where they're always looking for clues hidden in the architecture, the symbols, the stones themselves.
Exactly. And that's what Langdon and Sophie are doing. They're deciphering this poem.
Okay.
A riddle they think will lead them to the Grail.
This poem, it's like a treasure map, but in verse. What does it say?
It's full of these cryptic clues hinting at locations and symbols connected to the Grail legend. There's one line that really stands out. In London lies a knight, a pope interred.
A knight, a pope interred. That's a tough one.
It's referring to a specific knight, Sir Isaac Newton, who was buried in Westminster Abbey, which has been a burial ground for monarchs and all sorts of important people.
So they need to find Newton's tomb and figure out what it has to do with the Grail.
Yeah.
But they're not the only ones looking, right? What about Silas? What's he up to?
Silas is still following orders from his mysterious teacher. He believes that Langdon and Sophie have the keystone.
Okay.
And he's going to do anything to get it back.
It's a race against time.
Absolutely.
Langdon and Sophie trying to solve this poem, find the Grail, stay ahead of Silas and the police. Talk about pressure.
And just when you think they're getting close to figuring it out, Brown throws in another twist.
Okay, here we go.
Remember Andre Vernet, the bank manager who helped them escape the Depository Bank of Zurich?
Yeah, the guy who seemed so nervous about breaking the bank's rules.
Well, turns out Vernet has a secret of his own. He's been skimming money from the bank.
Oh, no.
And he's terrified of getting caught. So what does he do? He tries to frame Langdon and Sophie for the theft.
Oh, wow, another betrayal. Everyone in this story seems to have their own agenda going on.
It's true.
What happens to Vernet?
His plan blows up in his face. He gets caught, and Langdon and Sophie escape again, this time with the help of Sir Teabing.
Oh.
But as they run off into the English countryside, you can feel the tension building between Teabing and Langdon.
Yeah, I remember that part. Like, something's changed between them.
Yeah, Teabing's true colors are starting to show. He's getting more and more obsessed with the Grail, and he's willing to take drastic measures.
So now they have to worry about Teabing, too.
Exactly.
Their supposed ally.
Who might be even more dangerous than the police or Silas.
Right. He's kind of unhinged.
Yeah, he's lost it.
And that sets the stage for the final part of the book.
Yeah.
Where the quest for the Grail leads them to this place. It's like shrouded in mystery.
Rosslyn Chapel.
Rosslyn Chapel, the place where all these secrets come together.
It all leads to Rosslyn.
So last time we were talking about Langdon and Sophie, they got away from the police and saw only to end up with Lee Teabing, who's gone a little Grail crazy.
Yeah, he's lost it.
And they're on their way to Rosslyn Chapel.
Yeah.
What is it about this chapel that makes it so important to the story?
Well, Rosslyn Chapel, even in real life, has all these mysteries and legends surrounding it, which makes it like the perfect setting for the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
And Brown just weaves those legends right into the narrative, connecting it to the Templars, the Grail, even the Freemasons.
Yeah, I remember reading about all the carvings and symbols in the chapel.
It's amazing.
Like every stone had a story to tell. But how does it all connect to the quest for the Grail?
Well, Teabing thinks Rosslyn Chapel is where Mary Magdalene is buried.
Okay.
Or at least it holds clues to her burial site. He's convinced that the second cryptex, the one they found inside the keystone, has a map that will lead them right to her tomb.
So it's like centuries of secrets, all converging on this one chapel.
That's the climax of the whole thing.
So what happens when they get to Rosslyn?
Well, the atmosphere is really intense. The chapel itself is described as this masterpiece of sacred geometry and symbols. Langdon and Sophie, they're amazed by its beauty. But they also know they have to get away from Teabing before he does something crazy.
Right, because he's not just an eccentric scholar anymore.
No.
He's dangerous.
Yeah, he's a fanatic.
Willing to do whatever it takes to get to the Grail.
At any cost.
And that danger all comes to a head at Rosslyn. There's this big confrontation between Teabing, Langdon, and Sophie.
Yeah.
And just when it seems like Teabing's won, the police show up.
Oh, right, because Sophie called them earlier.
Yeah, so it's a showdown at Rosslyn Chapel.
A showdown?
The police, Langdon, Sophie, and Teabing.
All coming together.
Who comes out on top.
Well, in all the chaos, they arrest Teabing.
Okay.
His obsession with the Grail finally catches up with him.
Right.
And Silas, he gets killed in a shootout with the police.
That's kind of tragic.
Yeah, it is. He was just a pawn in the whole thing.
A victim of manipulation. So what about Langdon and Sophie? Do they finally find the Grail?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. The Grail, it's not actually there.
Wait, so what?
Yeah.
We've come all this way, all these clues, all these symbols?
I know, right?
And you're telling me the Grail's not even at Rosslyn?
Remember that idea of scitoma we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the whole perceptual blindness thing.
Right. We've been so focused on finding an object that we've missed the real point.
Okay, so what's the real meaning of the Grail then?
The book suggests it's a metaphor for the sacred feminine. Okay. This divine feminine principle that's been, like, silenced and pushed aside throughout history.
So it's not about finding a cup or a tomb, even a bloodline.
No.
It's about, like, reclaiming a lost part of history.
Yeah, a different way of understanding the world.
And our place in it.
Exactly. And this realization is huge for Langdon and Sophie.
Right.
They realize the power doesn't come from owning some object.
Okay.
It comes from changing your perspective.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful message. It's about challenging the stories we've been told.
Yeah.
Looking deeper, maybe even rediscovering something we've lost.
It's about opening your mind.
And it all comes back to symbols.
Right.
The Grail, the Pentacle, the Mona Lisa.
They'll point to something bigger.
They're not just random things.
No, they represent ideas, beliefs, things that shape how we see reality.
So what does all this mean for us, the people reading the book, listening to this deep dive? What's the takeaway?
I think it encourages us to be more aware of the symbols and stories that shape our own lives.
Right.
To question what we think we know.
Yeah.
Look for those hidden meanings, those alternative interpretations.
Become more active in how we understand history, religion, even our own personal stories.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code, it's an exciting adventure, but it also challenges us to look beyond the surface, to see the possibility that there's more to the world than we realize.
More than meets the eye. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If the Grail represents a hidden truth, what other secrets are out there waiting to be discovered?
Yeah, what about the symbols and stories that shape your life?
What mysteries will we leave behind for future generations to uncover?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Da Vinci Code.
It's been a pleasure.